every so often, I will try food / beverage, whatever, that I know I don't like. Because when my husband consumes them, you make it look so good.
Thanks.
For example, boba.
Good example.
Boba is disgusting. It's so nasty. God. And every time my husband gets boba, I'm like, hey, let me try a little bit of your boba. And every time I get that slimy little gummy ball, I'm just like, this is disgusting. This is horrible. Okay, right? So today.
I almost said something awful. Yeah.
So today. My husband was like, oh, I'm going to get an iced cookie butter latte from
Doesn't
Dutch
that
Bros.
sound so cookie butter?
And I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to get an iced cookie butter latte from Dutch Bros. We're twinning, right?
Yeah.
Twinsies. This shit is disgusting.
It's so good.
It's nasty. It's not good. Oh my God, my nose contour is like fucked up in the camera. Whatever. Ignore the fact that I'm literally brown nosing right now. This is nasty.
Yeah, it's so good.
Have you gotten this before?
Nope. First time. But I know what sounds good.
It's
and
so,
all right.
It's like, you would think it's cookie butter, so it would be sweet. It's not.
Cookie butter doesn't sound sweet.
Cookie butter literally is sweet.
No, that doesn't sound right.
Anyways, what up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten back at it again. If you see me grimace every time I sip this, it's because I refuse to waste the coffee. Okay, we pay for the coffee. I'm gonna drink the coffee, but it's not enjoyable. It's not good.
I can drink it in the morning.
You're not taking my coffee. Today we are here to watch Tear Zoo. Are camels OP? I'm gonna say yes.
They can eat cacti.
Yeah.
Of course
they can eat cacti. They live in the desert.
Like
they're
lollipops.
Absolutely hideous.
And their mouths are horror stories. You ever seen the inside of those things?
Travis tried to get me to ride a camel once at the rent fair because he hates me apparently. Like, I don't get it.
It was even squawking. It was great.
Yeah, it was awful. Anyways, I'm excited to see what Tear Zoo has to say. I love that my husband is here with me, as you always are. Just can't get away from you, I guess.
Why are you saying it like that?
I'm just kidding. I'm just
like
kidding.
when I'm around.
I do. I love when you're
And I can cook.
If I could, I'd have you around 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are staying safe and sanitized. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Here we
go. Oh my God.
Why? Why did we do
Camels
that?
are one of the most unorthodox builds in the game.
In
the right conditions, their combination of unique abilities and special set of elemental resistances makes for a shockingly effective strategy. But overall, where do camels rank on the tier list? Is their weird shape and odd skill set actually overpowered?
Yes.
Or is their current player base carried by their human allies? Today we'll discuss the history, stats, and abilities of the camel.
I need context behind that clip.
Bro.
I need why would you possibly need to put a camel on a zip line?
It's funny because this is like terrain that looks like it's very capable of crossing.
Like, what's happening?
They would put blinders on, put like a little hat on him, a little helmet, like a little thing, keep him all vibing out while he takes the trip. What are you doing?
It won't turn off.
Just press the button.
I did. You saw me press it.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Carried by their human allies. Today we'll discuss
Disgusting.
Actually overpowered.
What is wrong with you today? Give up that cookie butter.
If it helps, I say that every time somebody sees.
Okay, but you're not going to do it when I sneeze.
Okay.
Take it back.
Disgusting.
Or is their current player base carried by their human allies?
Next time I'm going to sneeze on you.
That's disgusting.
Today we'll discuss the history, stats, and abilities of the camel, and ultimately decide...
Are camels OP?
We'll begin with the origin of the camel. Camels first began rising in the meta at a time when a lot of mammalian herbivore builds were really taking off. Some of these herbivores spec'd into an ability called rumination to gain bonus XP from the newly buffed grass spawn rates. Some herbivores spec'd into more powerful PvP abilities, like keratinized horns and armor, in order to remain more well defended when out in the open. The camel, by contrast, took neither of these paths. Because they could not digest grass, they instead needed to spec into abilities which would allow them to survive the frequent long treks between ever-decreasing supply of nutritious tree leaves. So what are the camel's most important abilities? The most obvious one is their hump.
My hump, my hump, my hump, my lovely camel lumps. Check it out.
They used to tell me when I was like really little that they were full of water to
That's
help
what
them
they
with
told
traversing.
me. Yeah.
You know? And I was like, why don't we just like poke them? How come I've never seen somebody poke a camel and just like have the water squirt out?
Disgusting.
Right?
First of all, that would be so nasty.
But what hasn't ever happened? That's how I knew it was a lie. Somebody would have definitely tried it if it was full of water.
You see how this girl looking at you? You see how she looking at you?
Who is she to judge?
Feel.
Serves multiple purposes. Primarily, it's used as a site for fat storage, functioning as an energy reserve which allows camels to survive incredibly long journeys without access to food. With a maxed out fat reserve, camel players can ignore hunger damage for several months as they search for new spots to forage.
I've never seen such a fluffy
But
camel.
in addition to providing starvation resistance, allocating all the camel's body fat to one spot gives them excellent heat resistance by allowing for extremely efficient heat exchange everywhere else on the surface of the camel's body. Now, of course, this ability does come at a cost. The hump is an awkward and cumbersome load to bear, weighing the camel down and making its movement a lot more wobbly and top-heavy while running. Definitely not an ability you could just throw onto any other herbivore build and see benefit
bouncing
from.
around.
You need to have other abilities to help mitigate the weaknesses the hump incurs.
Oh, no. Oh.
So what other abilities does the camel have? The second main ability is the camel's feet pads. Rather than walking on hooved toes like most other herbivores, camels spec into large padded feet. Now, normally when a player spends their evolution points unlocking padded feet,
I feel like I knew this already, but
You definitely did.
camels, I just still think of camels as things with hooves.
Wow. Imagine them in the desert, walking up a big sand dune.
With hooves.
With a big old fingernail, just digging into the sand.
I have to have known this before, but this was very...
It'd be like walking with shovel feet. You know, you would never go anywhere. It had to be pads to help, walk across the terrain and stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, normally when a player spends their evolution points unlocking padded feet, they're doing so in order to mask the sound of their steps and buff their stealth stat. While it does technically offer a small stealth bonus, something as tall as a camel is not going to be very successful at hiding. Instead, similar to the hump, this ability protects camels from the stress and chip damage most players would accrue when walking for such long distances. It also spreads out their weight, preventing them from sinking into whatever surface they're standing on. This is especially important when traversing sandy or snowy environments, as it negates the movement penalties from this sort of terrain. Camels have a few other minor abilities as well. Their sickle-shaped
I was screaming before my face could even catch up to the sound.
It wasn't...
What in the... Put it back on the screen.
No!
Put it back. What in the hell is happening here? And how come I have never seen this before?
Yes, we have seen this.
But that's the point. Here. This is the only place. In the kids' book, they don't have this.
Oh, I see.
Put this in the children's book.
Don't do that.
They need to know what's happening out here.
Don't do that.
A few other minor
Jesus.
abilities as well. Their sickle-shaped blood cells make them more resistant to dehydration,
sickle cell
and
was
their
bad
tough,
for you.
leathery mouth negates puncture damage,
Yeah, that's
allowing
nuts.
the camel to be one of the
Look
few
at this.
builds able to eat cacti without being hurt by their spines.
But you don't
A
like
lot
the
of
lemon.
I don't like the lemon video. It makes me sad
Why?
because he knows it doesn't like the lemon, but he feeds it the lemon anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
And it really looks like it's fucking with him. Like the way his mouth foams up and stuff. Like he really hates it. Like I know he's going to survive.
Right.
But still.
But it seems kind of cruel.
A little bit.
I see that. I can see that.
Like he's giving them treats and then replacing the treats with something you know they can't eat.
Right.
Like somebody feed me a jalapeno. What are you doing? I thought this was candy.
Players are under the impression that camels possess a powerful spitting ranged attack, similar to the cobra or archerfish.
Actually, more similar to alpacas is kind of what I think of.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I think of alpaca spitting, I think of the alpaca
video.
Spitting into that woman's open
In her mouth. I think of the one where the lady was pretending to feed the alpaca and then didn't. And she was like giving the food and then taking it back and then giving the food, taking it back. And then just spat at her, just all over her and in her car. And then looked at her side-eyed after like, what is wrong with you? Play would be.
But okay.
Alpacas are hilarious.
Unfortunately, no, there's not really anything particularly threatening about the camel's spit, nor do they actually employ this skill in combat. They may vomit when threatened, but this is usually just a result of stress, not a defensive ability. That's not to say the camel's mouth isn't dangerous, though. In addition to their tough, leathery palate, one of the things that sets camels apart from other herbivores is that their teeth can actually deal serious damage. And with a neck as long, powerful, and flexible as the camel's, there's not many angles you could attack.
Make yourself long! Make yourself long like a hot dog so he can't eat you. Turn yourself vertical so he can't get his lips around you. That dude was so smart not to go in. Dude, he wanted to go horizontal so bad he fought the urge, dude. Just stay straight.
I'm also I would like to go back to the vomiting when threatened.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, what if people do that?
They do. They also poo themselves. You see that video of that dude who was like trying to jump that guy and then he pooped himself?
No.
Dude, it was going around on X a while ago, bro. That shit was so fucking funny, man. His friend was like sneak recording as they were walking next to the guy. And he tried to like punch him in the back of the head. Instantly pooped. Instantaneously. Just did not empty the bowels beforehand. All over the place.
Pooping, bodily excretions as a defense mechanism are like so funny in the wild, but like in human society, it's so distressing.
What do you think is going to happen? You start punching somebody in the stomach immediately and they have to pee.
Oh, I thought you said puke.
Well, I don't know. The puking is just so aggressive.
You know what that just reminded me of? When we were hanging out with when you were hanging out with your friend and you guys ate too much sushi and your friend was like, punch me in the stomach. Yeah. My stomach hurts. Punch me so I can puke.
Yeah.
And then my husband did it.
Absolutely. I would love to. Do you want to? Done. Because you will. You think you won't. You will. Even if you didn't want to, you would.
I was just on the other end of the phone, horrified.
I was like, yeah, hold on one second.
Also attack with their kicks, although their padded feet won't deal as much damage as, say, the sharp hooves of a zebra or a giraffe.
Right.
Anyway, those are the main abilities of the camel build. Next, let's look at the camel's stats. And quick note, I should mention that there are two variations of camel.
Yeah, the
dromedary
fluffy one
and Bactrian.
I've never
seen. Their most apparent difference is that the dromedary has one hump while the Bactrian has two. But honestly, the more important difference is in their base stats. Bactrians are larger, more powerful, and better adapted to the cold. The dromedary is smaller, but slightly more agile, and better suited for extreme heat.
Okay.
Camels have slightly above average intelligence, necessary for them to be able to remember the long routes that they travel on. As mentioned earlier, camels do have a more damaging bite than most herbivores. But compared to the damage large herbivores can dish out using their tusks or horns, they still fall short. Their defenses are quite strong, especially when it comes to elemental resistances. But on top of those, the camel's height makes it very difficult for predators to run out. Thanks to their special terrain movement bonuses, most of the time they don't even need to worry about predators, as no sane player would seriously try to follow them into an inhospitable desert.
Right.
But even on normal solid ground, the camel's movement speed
get in the vehicle,
decent, albeit kind of
he really getting his ass too.
Even with their padded feet slightly dampening the sound of their steps, their stealth is still abysmal, given that camels are the third tallest land animal after the giraffe and elephant.
Right.
And lastly, their perception is pretty normal for a mammal, except for the camel's partial immunity to the blindness condition.
There's the sideways thing.
Yeah, the horizontal people.
Yeah, look at that.
God.
So just wide, flat distances, huh?
Perception is pretty normal for a mammal, except for the camel's partial immunity to the blindness condition, on account of their long eyelashes, which block incoming sand and dust. This is all well and good, but the question remains, just how viable is this setup really? Is the camel just another build completely carried by humanity? So the camel is actually one of the more recent additions to the humans' party, with domestication being unlocked during the mid to late Bronze Age, well after dogs, cats, and horses had already formed alliances with humanity. And it was with the last one, horses, that camels were competing with for the spot on the team, as both horses and camels are useful to function as a mount. Horses are the faster mount, and in a lot of scenarios, that's truly all that matters.
Yeah.
In Bronze Age human versus human PvP, being able to outmaneuver and flank their enemies was one of the most important factors in securing victory.
Bro, when the horse came out, when the horse dropped, bro, it was literally like owning a tank.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how pathetic it is. You got your band of like 20 dudes. You just wander around with your pretty good weapons. And horses just start zooming past. You're cooked. There is nothing you can do about it.
You're done, bro.
You're stuck We got to go from here to there. We're stuck here. We cannot leave.
Yep.
We could leave early in the morning. They'd catch us halfway through the walk every time.
Every time.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
They could sleep in.
But for just about everything else, camels were far more reliable. Camels have a higher equipment load, meaning they can carry much more cargo.
That shit's cool.
They have higher vitality and defense, and thus can carry human players a much further distance in much worse conditions.
Right.
And of course, the fact that they are not impeded by difficult terrain is a huge perk for choosing the camel. It's for this reason that as humanity began transitioning away from a nomadic raiding playstyle and towards Bronze Age palace-based economies, having a mount that could carry goods across the vast desert between empires was of vital
Super
importance.
useful.
Yeah, that's
Camels
just
were
dope.
the only viable option for humans to cross the large deserts, like the Outback, Sahara, and Mojave, until humanity unlocked trains on the tech tree. So for a substantial length of time,
that's
camels
forever.
were an integral part of the economy across most of the world. And although railroads have made them obsolete in some servers, when it comes to crossing the desert, they are still genuinely one of the best options. Similar to horses and cattle, the vast majority of camel players are purely opting for the human-focused team combo playstyle.
Yeah,
There are
that's
only
cool.
around 1,000 players who are part of the truly wild faction
Really?
that never joined up with humans.
I kind of thought there were just wild camels
Way
everywhere.
more. I thought there were way more wild camels.
Yeah.
I'm talking hundreds of thousands of wild camels.
But it's also kind of how like I just assumed that like there's just like so many rhinos and lions and giraffes and stuff. Like I like basically Africa barely has room for people. That's kind of how I think of it.
I
And
see. Right.
that's just simply not the case.
Humans are a parasite.
Yeah.
We are everywhere, infest everything, eliminate anything that doesn't agree with our tummies.
like termites.
Ah, good one.
I was gonna say like ticks. Because ticks are parasites and termites aren't technically parasites.
They're not parasites, but I understand. Like a termite. Though.
Yeah.
We're just comparing. Relax.
Of the truly wild faction that never joined up with humans. Does this mean without humans, camels would be low-tier trash? I can see why you might jump to that conclusion. Despite their immense physical strength, I rated domestic cattle as B tier, in part because without humanity, it's unclear if they could even survive in the wilderness.
Okay.
Honestly, B tier might have even been too generous. But there's no question, when left to fend for themselves in the wilderness, camels not only survived,
They were thriving.
thrived.
Yeah.
When humanity unlocked the motorized transport tech, many human players kicked out the camel players from their party. This happened in America, in the Middle East, and most significantly in Australia. Now, an invasive mammal...
First of all, since when are camels in Australia? How did they get there? Don't explain Pangea to me, please. But I never considered camels
They
in
swam.
Australia. All right. I'll accept that.
All right.
But yeah, I just never considered, but like obviously because it's in Australia, like mostly desert. So it makes sense that like there would be camels there.
It's mostly full of Australians, mate.
Might.
And cheeseburgers.
R&R.
What's
the
an
shrimps on
Australian
the Barbie.
Potato skins. What's an Australian food?
Vegemite.
That's British.
No, that's Australian.
Is it Australian?
I think the British one is Marmite.
Marmite. Vegemite and burger sauce. Yeah.
Australia is really not that big a surprise, but thriving in the outback specific of mammals succeeding in Australia is really not that big a surprise, but thriving in the outback specifically is undoubtedly impressive. Here, they must contend with one of the other most successful Australian invaders,
Kangaroos.
the dingo. And let's be real, it's not even close to being an even matchup.
Damn.
Being historically from Asia, camels had to contend with everything from lions and leopards to wolves and even tigers.
Yep.
So despite their awkward top-heavy appearance and lack of powerful damage-dealing abilities, their incredible survival skill earns them the
They
rank
just look
of
so
A tier.
derpy.
Now, this video focused specifically on the Bactrian and Dromedary camel, the two builds most players would associate with the word camel.
Right.
But the camel faction does technically contain two other builds, the
Camellini.
llama and alpaca. These belong to
Yes.
Wow. Nice call.
the player base of prehistoric camels, which chose to venture south into the South America server, rather than across the Bering Strait and into Asia. Because of their vastly different environments, they obviously spec into different abilities. However, a lot of their core features are more or less the same. I have a lot to say about these creatures, mostly that they are the most disgusting, nasty
they're
creatures
so
I've
gross.
ever encountered. Alright, so this ad read is going to take a bit of a different turn than usual, but here's the deal. A few months ago, I got a message from the team at Wendover Productions asking if I wanted to be on a game show. Considering this is the same team that makes the show Jetlag the Game, I immediately said yes. And as a result of this decision, I ended up being on a wild, crazy show that ultimately led to me getting kicked and spat on by alpacas. That's really all you need to know, but let me explain a little more about the concept behind this show. It's a game show where a bunch of YouTubers, including myself, had to compete in a series of challenges in order to win money. The trick is that one of us was a saboteur, a traitor who would deliberately but subtly throw challenges. And at the end of each day, we need to vote off one player that we thought was the traitor. The twist, though, is that all of us were the traitor.
Hell
it's
yeah!
an immensely fun show that I'm incredibly...
That's amazing.
Why didn't y'all figure that out?
That's
sooner?
Amazing.
Damn.
proud to have been a part of. It's called The Getaway, and it's an original series streaming now only on Nebula.
Something that I always forget is that camels can be by snow.
Right.
I always forget
close.
that.
Very close to where they are.
I always forget that. Like when I think of camels, I think hot. I think Aladdin. I think desert. Okay? I do not think of the Mongols. I do not think of Asia.
I think a cool part...
Well, the Middle East, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a cool part about the rest of the world, they have weather. Like, we live in Vegas, we don't really have that much weather.
Right.
It snows like maybe once a year here, where people actually live at. And it really colors how we think about every other desert around the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
But, you know, if we drive north like an hour, we're going to get every single season.
Ely.
Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah.
Camels are cool, though. I really enjoy, like, how diverse they are.
I feel like you never really see pictures of the fluffy camels.
Mm-hmm.
You only see the regular camels, or people will draw the regular camels with two humps.
With two humps. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So he was like, yeah, the regular camels, I shouldn't call them regular, whatever.
Camel.
The regular camels have one hump, and the other the fluffy camels have two humps. And I was just like, duh.
Duh. Obviously, I've been lied to as a child, and I'm coming to that realization as an adult.
I mean, you know, I've never forgiven them for the Christopher Columbus thing, so now I just don't trust anything that they told me as a child.
Okay, so I've been waiting to talk to you about this, about the Tier Zoo thing.
Okay.
So I was on Twitter like a week ago.
Yeah.
And there's this guy who is just got it out for the Tier Zoo. He's just so freaking mad about the content in the video.
What?
Right?
What is he upset about?
So, you know, talking about the educational claims that are in the video, and, you know, there's like pseudoscience in here.
What?
I wanted to bring it up because, A, it's weird people behavior, which is fine. And look, we're YouTubers, he's used to it, okay? This is not keeping him up at night.
Right.
But just so you guys know, when you watch videos like this, there's an obvious twist with the video games and the information involved in one.
Right.
He's getting you closer to the truth and showing you a way to analyze the information about the animal, bring it into the real world, you know, and it's kind of like showing you a scientific method to do that.
Right.
He even puts it in a place in history, which is very skilled and hard to do.
And I feel like also he always acknowledges that, like, these are, first of all, like, his personal opinions. Like, first of all, whether or not something is OP is subjective.
Right.
Inherently.
Yeah.
But he also acknowledges when he makes mistakes. He's talked about, like, oh yeah, I've messed this up, I messed this up. But it's the same thing for him, Lindsay Nicole, Casual Geographic.
Right.
Like, 3 of our favorite creators, by the way, their word is not law, but they can at least give you a jumping off point. But you're always free to go do your own research.
Whenever you feel like
you're
you can
always
open a
free.
book.
Go to school, learn the same shit that they learned, and come to your own conclusions. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. And other than that, peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.
Be nice. Don't be weird.